समयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे. My namaskars to the August gathering. I must confess, I'm extremely nervous because sometimes I feel singing is easier than talking. So this is a little tough, especially speaking in front of such eminent artists and gurus and musicologists. I am very small in front of this gathering. I'm just going to share whatever little I have learned as a student and from my teachers, from the yesterday musicians. నాకు తెలిసిన కొంచెం I will just try to share. I'll keep switching between Telugu and English. Naturally, కొంచెం English comfortable, but మధ్యలో wherever I feel I can convey it in Telugu, I'll do it. So this concept of raga is very unique to Carnatic music. Scales ఉన్నాయి. Scales అంటే combination of 7 notes. ఈ combinations of 7 notes, different combinations. ఈ scales అనేటివి ప్రతి మ్యూజికల్ సిస్టంలో ఉంది. For instance, it's there in Western system, it's there in Hindustani, of course it's there in Carnatic. So ప్రతి మ్యూజికల్ ట్రెడిషన్లో ఈ 7 notes కాంబినేషన్ స్కేల్ అనే కాన్సెప్ట్ ఉంది. సో వాట్ డస్ ద స్కేల్ హ్యావ్? ఇట్ హ్యాస్ నోట్స్, బేసిక్లీ స్వరమ్స్ అంటాం కదా, స్వరాస్. సో ఇట్స్ ఎ కాంబినేషన్ స్వరాస్ ఆర్ నోట్స్ ఆర్ టోన్స్. సో కర్ణాటిక్ ఈక్వివలెంట్ ఆఫ్ ది స్కేల్స్ ఏంటి అంటే రాగం కాదు. స్కేల్స్, ragas are never scales. Instead, the equivalent would be a mela, where mela is a combination of those 7 notes, and under those melas, మనకుండే రాగాలన్నింటినీ మనం క్లాసిఫై చేసాం just for our ease. So mela is simply a collection of notes, but ragam is more than that. It is not just notes. ఒక మేళం కింద ఒక రాగం ఉంది అంటే ఆ రాగంలో ఆ స్వరాలు ఉన్నాయని అది ఒకటే, దట్ ఈస్ ది ఓన్లీ థింగ్ దట్ ఈస్ పాయింటింగ్ అట్. బట్ డస్ నాట్ మీన్ అ మేళా కెనాట్ బి అ రాగం. అ రాగం ఈజ్ మోర్ దెన్ జస్ట్ ద నోట్స్. సో ఈ రాగం అనే పదం ఫస్ట్ కాయిన్ మనకి ఇక్కడ ట్రియటైసెస్లో, ట్రెడిషన్స్లో చూసుకుంటే బృహదేశి అనే ట్రియటైస్లో అరౌండ్ 6th-7th century మనకు ఫస్ట్ కనిపిస్తుంది రాగం అనే పేరు. So Brihadishi by Matanga, he says raga is a collection of notes. It is also a collection of varnas. So varna, any 4 varnas have been defined: Arohi, Avrohi, Sthai, Sanchari. We all know Arohi is upward movement, Avrohi is downward movement. Sthai ante oka note meeda undi, stha meaning sthana or position. So that one standing still on a note, that is sthai. Sanchari is arohi, avrohi together is sanchari. So any notes we take, in 4 possibilities untayani treatise lo cheppabadindi. So he says it is swaras, it is varnas. He also says very important, he says ranjako jana chittana. He says that which is enjoyed by people, that which entertains, or ఏదో ఒక సెన్స్ ఆఫ్ ఎంజాయ్మెంట్ ఉండాలి ఆ మెలడీని వింటే, ఓన్లీ దెన్ ఇట్ ఈస్ క్లాసిఫైడ్ అండర్ అ రాగం. సో విత్ దిస్ వీ నో దట్ సింప్లీ స్కేల్స్ కెనాట్ బి రాగాస్. సో రాగాస్లో ఇంకా చాలా ఫీచర్స్, ఇంగ్రీడియంట్స్, సో స్వరాసే కాకుండా వర్ణాస్, ఆఫ్ కోర్స్ నౌ వీ హ్యావ్ గమకమ్స్, ద డిఫరెంట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ మూవ్మెంట్స్ దట్ హ్యాపెన్ బిట్వీన్ నోట్స్, ఇట్లాంటి అన్ని కలిపి వీ కాల్ ఇట్ అ రాగం. So since we said that it's not just the notes, what are allied ragas? Allied ragas ante okelanti ragas. Ragas that share something in common. So any two ragam you take, it will have something in common. Okay, so for instance, you take Shanmukha Priya and Simhendra Madhyam. Every note except the Nishadam is common. But can we classify both those ragas under allied ragas? Is something we can speculate on, but personally I feel no. So because atla cheste 72 lo ప్రతి ఒక్కటి అప్పుడు ఒక మేళలో ఉండే 6 రాగాలు అలైడ్ రాగాసా? బికాస్ దే షేర్ ద సేమ్ సరిగమప. ఓన్లీ పదని కీప్స్ చేంజింగ్, ద ధని దైవత నిషాద చేంజ్. ద పూర్వాంగం ఇస్ కంప్లీట్లీ సేమ్ ఫర్ ఆల్ ద రాగాస్ ఇన్ వన్ మేళ. డస్ దాట్ మీన్ ఒక మేళంలో ఉండే ప్రతి ఒక చక్రంలో ఉండే ప్రతి రాగము అలైడ్ అని చెప్తామా అంటే లేదు. సో దట్ ఈస్ నాట్, సో దాట్ డెఫినేషన్ వీ విల్ నాట్ డిస్కస్ టుడే. సో షణ్ముఖ ప్రియకి సింహేంద్ర మధ్యము we will not call it allied, at least as far as this discussion is concerned. So allied in terms of phrases, allied in terms of same notes, different treatment. Same set, it will be the same sagarigama but sung differently, or padapasa but sung differently. ఒక రాగంలో ఒకలాగా పాడతాం, ఇంకొక రాగంలో ఇంకొకలాగా పాడతాం. సో ఇట్లాంటి వేరియేషన్స్ ఉండేవి. దాట్ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు డిస్కస్ టుడే. ఐ హ్యావ్ సమ్ 6-7 కంపారిజన్స్ టు మేక్. సో ద ఫస్ట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఐ వుడ్ లైక్ టు టేక్ ఇస్ కేదార గౌడ అండ్ సురటి. Both Kedara Gowda and Surati are janya of Hari composition. So again, this is something I personally feel, though we say Melakarta, Janya anna cheptam kani, Melakarta ante that which causes, Janya is that which is born out of. Usually human relationships lo children look like their parents, right? We the features and all we inherit from our parents, but this does not apply to ragam. Though the name is Janya Karta, this concept of inheriting characteristics of the mela does not happen much in Carnatic music. So I will justify that with a few examples later, but first Kedara Gowda and Surati. We all know Sari Mapa Nisa is almost the same for both the ragams. The Aroha Krama is same. Sanidapa is same, but the way we sing, Sanida, same Sanidapa, but two very different treatments. So where is the difference really occurring here? Ekkada difference undi, why is it sounding different is, as sir said, nyasa. So which note to stop on, which note to land on, ఏ నోట్లో ఆపచ్చు, ఏ నోట్లో ఎంత ఆపచ్చు, ఏ నోట్లో వీ కెన్ కమ్ డౌన్ అండ్ స్టాండ్, ఏ నోట్ ఇట్స్ కాల్డ్ అల్పత్వ బహుత్వ. సో విచ్ కెన్ బి, ఇప్పుడు there's a hold on the devata there and the knee predominantly, the knee is there but there is a hold on the devata for Kedara Gowda. The hold is on the nishada instead. దైవతం మీద కాకుండా నిషాదం మీద హోల్డ్ చేసి ఆ దైవతాన్ని ఒక అల్పంగా ఇవ్వడం. నోటే da is almost on me. When we play an instrument we can see these things, that when we play a veena or a violin, that da is pronounced with the help of the nishada. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇలా చెప్తున్నాను కదా అని ప్రతిసారి దైవతం ఇలానే వస్తుందా అంటే అది కూడా లేదు. is there in Surati. సో ఆ ఎక్సెప్షన్స్ అన్నీ కూడా మైండ్లో పెట్టుకోవాలి. way. But when we are trying to differentiate two ragams, this is something my guru always says. When we are trying to sing two similar ragams, we are trying to differentiate, always look at the differences, never look at the similarities. Sarima Panisa is similar for both the ragams, but please don't focus on that. Mana focus should be on the differences. That's the difference. So the focus should be on the difference rather than the similarities that are there in the raga. So where do we learn these things from? Mana beginner lessons nunche ee concepts anni they have been introduced to us. It's just that we have to look. Mana paadetappudu mostly melody vintamu. Of course that's a greatest skill, just listening and singing, that is the best thing. But still when we are singing we try to ఏం పాడుతున్నాం కొంచెం అర్థం చేసుకొని పాడితే. ఫర్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ దిస్ ఫ్రేజ్ ఇన్ బోత్ ద కేదార గౌడ అండ్ ద సురుటి వర్ణం ఇట్ కమ్స్ రైట్ ఇన్ ద బిగినింగ్. Right hammer on the nail. First phrase itself is the difference only in both the varnas. And now since I am also a teacher and I am teaching, sometimes over gamakam chi sometimes that seeing that plain note ఏదో తప్పు ఉంది అక్కడ అన్నట్టు స్టూడెంట్స్, బికాజ్ వెన్ ఐ టీచ్ కేదార గౌడ వర్ణం సామి దే హ్యావ్ అ ప్రాబ్లమ్ విత్ దట్. దే సే నో దేర్ హ్యాస్ టు బి సంథింగ్, ఇట్స్ టూ ప్లెయిన్. బట్ the beauty of our music is as much as there are gamakas and movements, there are also plain notes, and these plain notes are the ones that help us sing clearly. Actually prati note ni upeste it becomes like a sangati. We don't want our music to be like that, you know. It has to be nice meal, there has to be everything in it. So our plain notes ni identify cheyadu. So ikkada chuste kedara gaudalo the dhaivata, plain dhaivata is very beautiful and it is used a lot in Kedara Gauda. So as I said, the concept of Mela and Janya, I am not going into the details of the ragam, I just want to point out the differences. The Suruti and Teeskunte, there are many other phrases also, but I am just trying to compare similar ragams and point out at the differences. So as I said, just because something is a janya of something does not mean they have to inherit the properties. For instance, Arabi and Shankarabharanam. Arabi is called janya of Shankarabharanam. Shankarabharanam ani manam anukunte the first note that comes to our mind is the Gandhara. Finished. We don't have to sing anything else. Shankarabharanam is done there. But now we come to the Janya Arabhi. Arabhi lo Gandharam is so alpam because that note is not allowed to be sung twice. దాంట్లో దీర్ఘం ఇవ్వడానికి లేదు. ఆ నోట్ని డబుల్ జంటగా పాడలేము. ఇట్ ఈస్ జస్ట్ అ పాసింగ్ నోట్, బట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. గాంధారం లేకుండా ఉండదు. మగరి అంటే సరిదవ మగరి. ఇన్ఫ్యాక్ట్ సరిమా పద స ఇస్ అరబీ, సరిదవ మగరి స ఇస్ శంకరాభరణం. అండ్ అరబీకి రెండు స్కేల్స్గా చూసుకుంటే ఇది అవరోహణం ఇస్ ద సేమ్. సనిదప మగరి స, సనిదప మగరి స శంకరాభరణం, సనిదప మగరి స మగరి దదప మగరి ప్రతి నోట్ డబుల్ చేయొచ్చు ఎక్సెప్ట్ గాంధారం, విచ్ ఇస్ ఎ జీవస్వరం ఆఫ్ శంకరాభరణ రాగా. సో దిస్ ఇస్ మై జస్టిఫికేషన్ ఫర్ సేయింగ్ దట్ దో సంథింగ్ ఇస్ ఎ జన్య ఆఫ్ సంథింగ్ డస్ నాట్ మీన్ దాంట్లో ఉండే, బికాస్ శంకరాభరణ ద మెయిన్ నోట్ ఇస్ గాంధారం, బట్ ఆరబీ ఈస్ నాట్ ఇన్హెరిటింగ్ దట్. ఆరబీ హ్యాస్ నథింగ్ టు డూ విత్ దట్ గాంధారం. వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్, బట్ స్టిల్ ఇస్ సో అల్ప, చాలా అల్పమైన ఒక నోట్. Similarly, the nishada of Anandi. It's there, but it's okay if it is not there also. That kind of a treatment. In fact, when we look at sadhinchane, there is absolutely no nishada. In the Re Re Shri Rama, even in that Geetam, there is hardly any nishada. So, sa sa da da ba sa ri ma ba da sa sa da ba ma ga ri sa. There is another ragam that shares the same scale, sama, same scale, sa ri ma pa da sa sa da ba ma ga ri sa, but the difference lies in the Gandhara. Ma ga ri sa sa ri ma pa da sa da pa ma pa da ma pa ma ga ga ri ri. A gaal hold చేసి కింద దిగితే it is sama. Magari is sama. Magari is Arabi. So just that one note and the whole raga changes. So why I'm trying to make this point is sometimes the difference is we only limit it to the scale. Sarimapadasa sadapa magarisa sama. Sarimapadasa sanidapa magarisa Arabi. But just to say that without the nishada also Arabi can be presented. అప్పుడు నిషాదం లేదు అంటే అది సామా అయిపోతుందా అంటే లేదు. సామాకి there is another feature, the Gandhara, the prominence to the Gandhara. So the point I'm trying to make is ఒక రాగం, when we look at a ragam, దాని ఇంత నోట్స్గా కాకుండా if we just pick it up like phrases, that's a better way of learning. Arona is important. What is the pakkad and all, we need to know how it goes, arohalo, how it comes back to in the avroha. These things have to be learned. But if we can learn ragas in forms of phrases instead of the notes, we can grasp more. And the confusion is undadu. Like when somebody is singing sama, whether it is sama or Arabi, you will not be confused. You listen to that Gandharam, you listen to the phrases, we will be able to find out what ragam it is. And the concept of nyasa, which note to stop on. So I will try to sing 3 ragams, sanidapa, same phrases, same phrase, but just how they are sung differently in each of the ragas. The first one I sang. Todi. Dhanyasi. Dhanyasi. Yes. Ahir. So Sanidapa is same. We all see notes ani chuskunte. It's the same Panchama Shadja, of course. It's the same Dhaivata Nishada variety. Yet the way we come down, it's because of the Nyasa. In Todi, Dhaivata is a good Nyasa Swara. That is allowed in Todi. Dhaivatamlo Dalu Apite Dhanyasilo, Dhaivatamlo Apite Dhanyasi. We will not be able to find where Dhanyasi is. Ante, Dan Ante prominent. That's all we can do there. Ahirilo Nishada takes prominence. Nishada is a good Nyasa Swaram for Ahiri. అది వదిలేద్దాం అసలు. I know there's a different Gandharam, but let's leave that alone. Just the Sanidapa portion is so different. మనం అనుకుంటాం అన్ని సానిదాపానే కదా అని, బట్ లేదు. సో దట్స్ వాట్ ఐమ్ ట్రైయింగ్ టు సే. Every ragam, it has its own way of dealing with phrases. The next set of few ragams that I would like to take: Bhairavi, Mukhari, Ananda Bhairavi, Husaini, Karara Priya, and this set of ragas. So I will not go into the obvious differences. Ga re ga ma pa re ma pa. This is obvious for in the case of Mukhari and Bhairavi. Pa ni da sa pa da ni sa. We all know that. Sa ni da pa ma ga re sa. Same for both Bhairavi and Mukhari. But what about the phrases that are common, but they differ in the way we sing it, the nyasam again. Na, na, what do you think it is? Okay, so it is Bhairavi. Okay. Na, 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 na. That kind of a nook on the nishada. Mukhari. So our knee, there's a kind of a jaru. There is a longer hold on the Devata. Ani paadam Bhairavi. The Devata. We go to knee immediately. We go back to the nishana. But Mukhari allows for a hold on the Devata as well as that jaru on the nishana. A soft jaru on the nishana. Leave the sari, just the sanida. The kind of jaru that Mukhari allows. So as I said, I am not going in detail into the ragas. Mukhari lo inka chala undi, Bhairavi lo there is a lot of other things to cover. But my intention of this presentation is to cover just the common phrases yet different. But there is one phrase that technically sounds that can be sung even in Bhairavi, but it is predominantly used only in Mukhari. For instance, this phrase, if you technically see, pada pama pa mara pamagari, it can be sung in Bhairavi also, technically. Right? Arohana, Avarohana, wise chuskunte, there's nothing wrong, we can see. But if I start a ragam like this, ani paadam. Phrases that technically adi utta pada pamada pamagari sounds, maybe contextually you can also do it in Bhairavi, but it is so characteristic of Mukhari. So the point is, Mukhari ante rima bani dasa ane kaadu. There are other elements like we have this tendency ippudu two ragams unnai, Bhairavi, Mukhari. Obviously Bhairavi is the more popular ragam than Mukhari. So our mind constantly will be on differentiating. Ekkada Bhairavi vinchakoodu. It has to be Mukhari all the phrases. But there are so many phrases that are technically can be sung in Bhairavi, but they are so they still shine brighter when sung in Mukhari. So the thing is, learning raga by phrases again instead of the notes. So our ragas, the phrases, when we pick it up, we will be able to show all these things more clearly. Karahara Priya and Bhairavi. Again, if we see in terms of Arohana, Avarohana, there is only one note difference in the Avarohana. The usage of Shuddha Daivatam in Bhairavi, which is not there in Karahara Priya. I will not go there. I will not say Bhairavi lo Padani Sani Dapa, Padani Sani Dapa is Karahara Priya. That is obviously we know. So keeping that aside, what is common is Sarigamapa. Sarigamapa is common for both the ragams. But for Bhairavi, Gari Gama Padapa, Gari Gama Padapa. The Gandharam is not Ga, it is there in Bhairavi. Does not mean, again a disclaimer, ఇప్పుడు ఇది ఉంది అంటే అది లేదా అని లేదు, అది కూడా ఉంది. But this is also very important. So, Gari Ga, Gama Padapa. ఆ మధ్యమంలో that kampitam, that Gandharam, that Swasthana kampita, very hrasva, Ga, Ma, Pada, instead of the Dirgha, Ga, and Kampunda, Ga, Ma, Pada, so, Riga, Ma, Pada, Riga, Ma, Pada, Nida, same notes, Riga, Ma, Riga, Ma, Pada, so where that Madhyama has a Kampitam, Gandharam konchu takku paadam, whereas in Karahara Priya, Riga ma padani ma ga ga ri, that double Gandharam is used in Karahara Priya, that we do not find in Bhairavi. Ma ga ri sa, Riga ma ga ri sa, Riga ma pada ma ga ri sa, Riga ma pada ma, Riga ma ma pa. So just that Riga ma itself is treated so differently in both the ragas. So already I said sa ga ri sa ni da na is more Karahara Priya. Na 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 ra ra na ta da ra ra na the double nishadam, double Gandharam is sung more in Karahara Priya than in Bhairavi. Bhairavi no na, that nok on the nishadam. So often when we sing Bhairavi, we tend to go into Karahara Priya, or when we are singing Karahara Priya, we tend to slide into Bhairavi. It's because of these things. So consciously, if you feel that you might sing Karahara Priya while singing Bhairavi, and paadesthe confusion ఉండదు. So it is just cheat codes akkada. So that we don't get into other ragams when we are singing some ragam. So now we have same Sanida, 3 ragams. Karahara Priya added to the same, but with a different treatment. Same Sanida, but 3 different ways of singing. And one is Bhairavi, one was Karahara Priya, the other one was Mukhari. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was Kala Pramanam. So when we say Kala Pramanam, we naturally associate with తాళం. కాల ప్రమాణం అంటే ఒక కీర్తన ఏ స్పీడ్లో పాడాలి, అది కాల ప్రమాణం అనుకుంటాం. బట్ ఇన్హెరెంట్లీ all ragas themselves have a certain kala pramana. We ourselves know some ragams they lend కొంచెం ఫాస్ట్గా పాడడానికి. సమ్ రాగమ్స్ we say నీలాంబరి స్లోగా పాడితే it shines brighter. We say దేవగాంధారి can be a little slow. We say యదుకల కాంబోజీ can be a little slow. Of course there are compositions that are little brisk ఉన్నాయి, but still we say that these ragams they are more beautiful when they are sung slower. Whereas a ragam like Arabhi, it lends to it is supposed to be sung a little faster. So inherently every ragam has a kala pramanam. Ragam ani whole ga cheppakunda inherently phrases have kala pramanam. Where oka phrase oka speed lo paadtene or vaistene that will sound like that ragam. Otherwise it starts sounding like some other ragam. So itla same notes, almost same arohana avarohana but different. ఇట్లాంటి రాగాలు మన మ్యూజిక్లో చాలా ఉన్నాయి. సో కాల ప్రమాణంని ఉత్త తాళం అనే కాకుండా ఈ లయం కాల ప్రమాణం దే ఆర్ ఇన్హెరెంట్ టు ద రాగా ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్, టు ద మెలడీ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్. సో మెలడీ అండ్ లయ ఆర్ నాట్ టూ డిఫరెంట్ థింగ్స్, దే గో హ్యాండ్ ఇన్ హ్యాండ్. మెలడీలో లయం ఉంటేనే it sounds beautiful. That might not be the kind of taalam we use, but there is inherently a laya inside every phrase that we sing. So itlanti examples where they have the same notes, but just because of the change in kala pramanam they are heard differently. There are many examples. Neelambari Shankarabharanam, Devagandhari Arabhi, Darbar Nayaki. So these ragams have the same, almost the same notes and everything. Again, obvious differences gurinchi nenu maatladanu ikkada. There are some very obvious differences in all these ragams. But there are some things that are very intricate and we sing them but we don't observe them. So just those things I would like to point out. So Neelambari and Shankarabharanam first. So obviously Neelambari, as we all know, it's a ragam that is used for lullabies. So obviously some slower. Fast ga paadakuda ante paadachu. It depends on our understanding of the ragam. I have seen artists who have sung like second speed swarams for Neelambari and it still sounded like Neelambari. So if we are able to convincingly sing and convey that mood of the Neelambari in all speeds, great. But traditionally, even the compositions, they are usually in the Vilamba Kala. So that Kala Pramanam brings in the difference. Though Shankarabharanam and Neelambari have the same notes, the speed at which those phrases are sung. So Manasu Swa. I won't even change the Kala Pramana. Say I render it in the same Kala Pramana, yet there is so much difference. Manasu Swadhina Mainaya Ghamuniki Manasu Swa. So the first difference is the Madhyama. Gama pa sa pa magama pa appears both in Shankaravarana and Nilamari. Gama pa the Madhyamam is much softer in Nilamari. So again, these are all little tricks. We are trying to sing Nilamari, but Shankaravarana keeps coming. But still, so that Madhyama, Gama Padani Sa, Gama Pani Pama, Pani Panagama. That soft Madhyama is very important for Nilamari, whereas in Shankarabharanam it's a ma. That kind of treatment is there in Shankarabharanam. In the Avarohanam, Sadapa. In Shankaravaranam, the Nishadam is almost Shadja. Of course, there are instances where we sing Manodharmanu Chustam. People do sing. But most of the other phrases in compositions, the Nishadam is almost Shadja. Padani sa. There is no pa. Even if the ni is Dirgham, Padani. So, Shadjam to Kudi ostundi that Nishada. Hope I am able to convey what I am trying to say. Padani, that is the position. Padani sa, almost on Shadja, that Nishada appears. But Nilambari gives that freedom. That plain Nishada in Nilambari. So these are some of the observations that I have made. The next example for Kala Pramanam difference. So again, Kala Pramanam, Nilambari is a lot slower, whereas of course we sing a little faster. We sing those fast phrases here and there in Nilambari. But this is my personal opinion. I have sometimes this phrase we tend to sing in Shankarabharanam. Maybe we can do it a little differently. This is so Nilambari. I somehow am not convinced that this sounds good in Shankarabharanam. So we can avoid this phrase especially because this has been sung so much in Nilambari. I feel we can just leave it with Nilambari because there is so much more to Shankarabharanam. There is so much more we can sing in Shankarabharanam. So we can leave it for Nilambari. The next example would be Darbar and Nayaki. Classic example of Kala Pramanam. Sarima Padani Sa Sari Sara Pamari Gagari Sa The names are pretty much indicative of the kind of ragas they are. Darbar is this majestic, very powerful raga. Vinayaki, just like its name, it's very subtle, soft, lot of jaru. It's very feminine in nature. Made out, which is what? So, just sheer change in Kala Pramana. Yet so different, so similar yet so different just because of the Kala Pramana. Devagandhari, Arabhi. Of course, the obvious difference is I will not go there. That is the obvious difference that the Amneswaram that Devagandhari has. But Magari, same for both the ragams. Magari, Magar. Re ma pa magari, re ma pa magari, tadana magari. There is no hold on the ga. Ga is handled similarly almost in Arabi and Devagandhari. It's the way we come to the Rishabh. Magari. The hold on the Madhyama and the longer hold on the Rishabha. The hold and the Rishabha. I need not even show the Nisharam there, the Amneswara. Same notes, just slow it down, more kampitam, the movements. Just the Kala Pramanam alone brings so much of difference in ragas. Where is all the information for all this is compositions. Various compositions, all forms of compositions, from Varnams to compositions of the Trinity, of other composers, the kind of Javalis, Padams, because every composition is a capsule of different kind of information. So more and more compositions we learn, we can observe these things. So the last, of course, allied ragas in Cheppetappudu, there are set of ragas that differ by one note. two notes like Karahara Priya, Sri Ranjani, Abhogi. Now maybe for another presentation, I am not prepared for it today, but maybe for another presentation, we can maybe observe if there are any other differences apart from the missing notes. So Sri Ranjani ki Karahara Priya ki Panchama okatena difference, or there is something else. This is something we can all speculate from the compositions we know. So Gari Sanida Patamlo evana difference in the way we sing it in Karahara Priya. Because otherwise what happens is there is a risk of assuming that Sri Ranjani is simply Panchama Varjya of Karahara Priya, but that's not the case. Sri Ranjani itself has its own characteristics. It's not just the Panchama. I'm sure there are some other differences as well. Same for Abhogi. So when we try to learn raga, we can speculate on these things. Similarly, unde ragalu, but still are they, the phrases that they share, are there any differences? The obvious difference is okay, but Sarigamalo edana difference unda, the way we do it in Karahara Priya, Sri Ranjani and Abhogi. These things we can ponder upon. A very obvious such cluster of ragas is Madhyamavati, Shri, Manirambu and Pushpalatika. Same notes here and there. Sarima Vanisa, Sarima Marisa, Madhyamavati, Sarima Vanisa, Sarima Marisa, Shri, Sarima Vanisa, Sarima Marisa, Manirambu, Sarima Vanisa, Sarima Marisa, Pushpalatika. But for instance, now Madhyamavati and Sri Ram, only one note is different, that Gandharam, and of course in the Dikshita tradition we also have the Dhaivata. I will not go there. But that one note difference, is that it? Adi okatena ante tadana. This can never be Shri. This is definitely Madhyamavati. It's a common note, no. It is a common note. It is there in Shri and Madhyamavati. Tadana. It can never be Sri Ram. It is definitely Madhyamavati. Though they are the same notes. Like both the ragams share the notes. So in Sri Ram there is Shri Varalakshmi Dharma Samvardhani. Both the compositions start on Rishabha, but so different. Dharma, that Kampita for Rishabham in Madhyamavati is very important. Whereas Shri Varalakshmi Namahastubhyam, that plain Rishabha for Shri. So finding the difference in commonalities. So that is something we can think about, and it's very interesting. We can probably try to draw parallels for Shri and Manirambu as well. Madhyamavati is there a difference in that? Is there a difference in the way we sing the Nishada? Maybe for the next presentation I'll come prepared with this. I didn't have the time to look into all those things. But it's something we can definitely see. In fact, in Sri Ragam sometimes, I may be wrong, sometimes I feel that na is not there much in Shri. It's more in Madhyamavati. Nishadam is, of course the Varnam is there. Me to, Nyasanga petkoni oka swaram undi. But still somehow pani, these phrases are more Madhyamavati than Shri. Pani, sani, pa, in Shri, that Nishada maybe arrives only as a passing note when we sing phrases. This is just a personal observation. I would like to end this presentation with differences between Kalyani and Shankarabharana. So, the whole point of the presentation is to say that ragas are more than just notes. Because Shankarabharanam and Kalyani have only one note that is different, and that is the Madhyama. Does that mean I take Shankarabharanam, I change the Madhyama? Will I arrive at Kalyani is the question. So, unfortunately, no. I wish it was that case. అప్పుడు ఒక రాగం నేర్చుకుంటే అన్ని రాగాలు పాడచ్చు. We can just simply change notes and we can sing everything. But unfortunately, our music, or fortunately rather, our music is so complex. Every note is different in Kalyani and Shankarabharana. Of course, Madhyama is different, but But apart from that, every other note has some or the other difference. So the classic difference in the Gandharam we all know. Shankarabharana Gandharam is that plain, meditative. So Kalyani is a very special ragam where it says that Sarva Swara Gamagavarika ragam, where every swara has some or the other oscillation. When we sing the Adadala Varnam, no note is left alone except the Shadja and the Panchama. Every note has an oscillation. We can do that really plain. But otherwise, every note has a oscillation. Whereas in Shankarabharanam there are some notes that are best left alone plain, like the Gandharam. Sadi Gama Padani Sa Ni Da Pa Ma Gari Sa. The Gandharam is for sure a plain note. So the Gandharam Na Ra Na is Shankarabharanam. Na is Kalyani. అందుకని కళ్యాణిలో ప్లెయిన్గా పాడకూడదా అలా ఏం లేదు. యూ క్యాన్ సింగ్ వన్స్ ఇన్ వైల్ ప్లెయిన్, దట్ రాగం allows you to do that. But Shankarabharanam cannot have that Gandharam with that oscillation. The Nishadam of Kalyani and Shankarabharanam, very different. Padani Sa Sani, that's all we do in Shankarabharanam. Sani Da Pa, that Daivatam is taken from Shadja itself. Sani Da Pa Ma, Sani Da Pa Ma, Sani Da Pa, Sani Da Pa, Sani Da Pa. A little different. That Nishadam allows for a lower kuncham, like Ni Ruparani, Ni is more Shankarabharanam. Padani Kalyani lo padochu, but Kalyani allows for that lower nishadam. That lower, little lower than what we would sing in Shankarabharanam. So though the Padanisa is same, Sanidapa is same, Sariga is same, but still in those single notes and the phrases that we sing, the ragas differ so much. So as a conclusion to this presentation, I would like to say the first step to learning these ragams is trying to learn the varnams that are there in the ragam, preferably from a guru. Because varnams to oka pedda there's a risk, because the notations are available. We feel we can just take it and sing. We can look at any notation and we can just sing the varna. So that is why Sa Ni Sa Da Ni Pa happens. Sa Ni Sa Da Ni Pa. This will, only a guru can teach us this. We will never come to know what this is unless we learn it directly from a guru. So learning ragams by learning varnams, the compositions, and notating the compositions that we learn also, it gives us an insight into what is really happening. Melody vini paadam is great, but within dani notate cheyagalagadam is also something we need to inculcate. So practicing notation writing, learning more and more varnams. So Yeah, so the ragas are much more than just the notes. So let us all learn the ragams by phrases. Oh, just one. I also came prepared with Anand Bhairavi and Hussaini. So just one point. Hussaini gives more prominence to the Rishabha than Anand Bhairavi. But why we get confused between Anand Bhairavi and Hussaini is because of the it's there in both the ragams. Pahi Shri Giriraja Sute. It's there. Shri Ram. There's one composition of Puji Srinivasa Iyengar which Patham plays Naku, but that Sapasa. So because of the sa pa sa, we tend to think they are alike, but there are a lot of differences. The Rishabha, the prominence to the Rishabha and Hussaini. Thank you so much for being so patient.